everyone. Today we're going to talk about Judah. And it came to pass that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Edomite, whose name was Hera. And Judah saw there was a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son and called his name And she conceived again and bare a son and called his name Onan. And yet again conceived a third, and his name was Shelah. And he was at Jezeb, and she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. The Lord killed him. And Judah said unto Onan, Go into thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up a seed to your brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass that when he went into his brother's wife, he spilled it on the ground, that he should not give seed to his brother. And the thing that he did displeased the Lord. Therefore God killed him also. Okay. Then said Judah to Tamar. So what does that say? That means we should be mindful of the things that we do because when her first husband died, the custom was to the next brother in line was to be her husband. And because he dropped the seed, God didn't like that. And the first husband, of course, he was wrong. He was just a wicked man. And so eventually he had to die. I guess God destroyed him. Maybe his ways didn't please God either. Okay. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah my son, his third son, is grown. And he said, Lest peradventure he die also, and the name would not be carried on. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. So the children that Judah had in the previous time the first three sons, that was probably by a concubine, because in those days God didn't say nothing about men having more than one wife and having concubines. It was allowed. Okay, and in the process of time, that's right, Judah's wife died, and Judah was comforted and went up into his sheep herders to Timnath and to his friend Hira and Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, your father-in-law goes to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put on her widow's garments and covered her face with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place, which is by the way in Timnath, for she saw that Shelah was grown, but he was not given unto her to be his wife. And Judah saw her, and he thought her to be a harlot, because her face was covered. And he turned into her by the way and said, Go, I pray you, come unto me, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What will you give me that I might come unto you? And he said, I will give you a kid from the flock. And he said, What pledge shall I give you? And he said, You should give me the signet and the bracelets and thy staff that is in your hand. And he gave it to her. And she arose and went up, laid by her veil, and put on the garments of her widowhood again. And Judah sent the kid by the way of the friend to Adamalite to receive the pledge to the woman's hands. And he asked of the men, Where was the harlot that sat in the way? And they said, There was no harlot. Then he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. Also the men have not seen her. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be ashamed. And it came to pass about 3 months after, it was told Judah that Tamar, the daughter-in-law, had played the harlot, and that she was with child. And he said, Bring her forth and let her be burnt. That was the custom also. Wow, they were very hard on women. Okay. And she was brought forth and sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child? And he discerned and prayed thee, Whose are these signets and bracelets? And Judah acknowledged and he knew that it was his. And she had been So she had been more righteous than I. He acknowledged that and knew that, because I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he did not know her again anymore. So what does that mean? It means always, even in those days, women had to hold up a higher standard than a man. And that's really a good thing. It protects us and it helps us, but they need to have standards too. Maybe now, so many years later, men do have a little bit more standards. They try to have one wife, but of course, here in America, God bless you guys. I hope you got something out of that today, and just obey God. That's the most important thing we got to do. And